Did you know that Iowa is scoring 32 points per game through games, four games, facing teams that include Iowa State and Minnesota, like legitimate Power 4 teams, Iowa State being a ranked team? How interesting. I don't think that people expected Iowa's offense to be fixed in 1 year. I don't think it is fixed in 1 year. But Iowa has an offense, and they have an offense that is very Michigan-esque, very Service Academy-esque, in the way that they're only effective at running the football, and even against stacked boxes, they are effective at running the football. Caleb Johnson is, at this point, a Heisman contender. Like, if we were actually objective and looking at how players are performing this season relative to competition, how they're doing given their supporting cast, Caleb Johnson would be up there. It would be Ashton Jeanty, Travis Hunter, Caleb Johnson. Just looking at the numbers, maybe you could say Cam Ward, because those numbers, even against bad competition, are impressive. And I don't know who else you would put up there. I mean, you could say, like, maybe Quinshon Judkins if he got more carries. Cologne Mullings, the same thing if he got more carries. Gosh, you could say Quinn Ewers if he was healthy, but he's not. And you kind of need to see another game like the one he had against Michigan to really put him up there. But talk about the year of running backs and then quarterbacks not exactly having an obvious first-round talent who is the clear best player in the country, like we've seen in some years prior. Iowa is just, they're killing people. They are murdering people on the ground. And their defense, while it's had some issues in the secondary compared to prior years, is top 10 in run defense, facing Minnesota, who has Darius Taylor, playing Arkansas State, who has mobility at the quarterback position. Actually, Iowa State played Arkansas State, but they played Iowa State and they played Minnesota, who have competent offenses. Minnesota's a competent offense on the ground. Iowa State has I'd say, great offense overall. Really good, great at passing, and they have enough players on the offensive line and with Abu Sama in the backfield to where they can run too. And Iowa, they look better than they have been in prior seasons. I think this is the best Iowa team since 2020, 2019, and certainly has the highest ceiling in the 2020s decade under Kirk Ferentz with the Iowa Hawkeyes. They are 72nd in offensive efficiency. They're 54th in scoring offense, scoring 32 points per game flat. And this is unbelievable. They're top 50 in points per play. They're scoring 0.431 points per play. They're actually getting touchdowns. They're not just kicking a bunch of field goals and forcing a bunch of turnovers, and that's how they get the field goals kicked, like it was in 2022 and a little bit in 2023, though they had some problems forcing turnovers. This is different. This is one of the best jobs that was possible for Tim Lester to achieve at Iowa. I mean, against Minnesota, Iowa scored 31 points. They ran for 272 yards and 4 touchdowns, averaging 6 yards per carry. Their long rush was of 40 yards. It was a Caleb Johnson run for a touchdown. Iowa controlled the time of possession. They had 19 first downs to Minnesota's 15. They had 334 yards of total offense, outgaining Minnesota, winning the turnover battle. Iowa against Illinois State and against Troy, they outgained those two teams. Now, you may say, well, that's not impressive. No, it's not, except for Iowa, it actually is, because Iowa hasn't been able to outgain even the worst of teams in the previous 2-3 years. Put up nearly 500 yards on Illinois State. Against Troy, they put up 462 yards. Now, they allowed 21 points, one of those being a special teams punt return for a touchdown. But I digress. We're talking mainly about Iowa's offense here. And they had 303 yards against Iowa State and scored 19 points and led for much of that game and controlled Iowa State for the first half / 2.5, 3 quarters. Not 3.5, but 3 quarters. I mean, are we seeing a team that, if they didn't lose to Iowa State, wouldn't just be a college football playoff contender to make it, but a contender to win a game? Is this a team who, outside of Ohio State, which is, I'm 99% sure is a loss, but with how Iowa's running the football and with the fact that they showcased some competency in the passing offense for a few of their games, you never know. I mean, in truth, you never know. And it's not like Iowa's a bottom 10 offense anymore. They're not even close to that. They're just below average offensively. And they're near elite to elite defensively. I just think that Iowa State has some ridiculously good wide receivers, a clutch quarterback in Rocco Becht. Matt Campbell's an underrated coach. And it's a rivalry game. And I think that best explains why Iowa lost at home and really choked that game away. But this is a legitimate team, and Iowa State, Iowa's only loss, is a legitimate team as well. I think that Iowa's a top 25 team easily. Same thing with Iowa State. And you pay attention to Iowa, they are right now, they're rated inside of the top 25 in FPI. They're rated 24th. They're projected to go 8-4, but FPI is all about probability and about, simulating the season thousands of different times. I'm fairly confident Iowa's going to go over that projected 7.8 wins and 4.3 losses. Guarantee it. And you look at S&P Plus from Bill Connolly, and the Iowa Hawkeyes are even higher. They're 18th. They're viewed as 14.8 points better than the average college football team. And in FPI, they're viewed as 9.4 points better than the average college football team. They're doing it. And again, they are 72nd in offensive efficiency. They're 14th right now in defensive efficiency. I expect those defensive numbers to go up as the season goes on. And it's possible that Iowa can do that offensively too, because they're in year one of a completely new system with Tim Lester. They're playing a lot of new and younger players at wide receiver, and it's working for them well. And their offensive line's very experienced, and they're deep. And they also have a deep running back room. And Cade McNamara has shown before that sometimes he looks like a terrible quarterback, and other days he looks like a good quarterback, and sometimes he's just below average or average. And that's really that. What a job done by Kirk Ferentz and Tim Lester and Phil Parker and LeVar Woods and that whole staff so far this season. And I don't think I'm overreacting when I say that, because look, it was a big change moving on from Brian Ferentz for Kirk Ferentz. I know that decision was out of his control, but he took it, he accepted it, and he actually hired an offensive coordinator who is legitimate. And seeing what Caleb Johnson has done, and kudos to his running backs coach, kudos to Iowa's offensive line coach, this team is dangerous. They will be competitive in all of their remaining games, including, I think, the Ohio State game. Will they beat Ohio State? Probably not. Like, even closer to absolutely not. But I think they'll be able to hang with Ohio State, given Iowa's proclivity to want to control the clock, play very good defense, and the fact that Caleb Johnson, he's running against stacked boxes, aggressive defenses, and breaking tackles, and hitting his accelerator when needed, and in the perfect position. He's a really good running back. He might be the best back in the Big Ten. And that's saying something when you have Jordan James, when you have Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, when you have Khalil Mullings, Darius Taylor. But right now, relative to expectations, relative to his supporting cast, he's the most impressive running back in the Big Ten. That's for sure. The Iowa Hawkeyes absolutely have an offense, and as of this season, they got a future because they're a very experienced team with a defense that's elite, and this offense right now is better than terrible. And terrible was an upgrade from porous last year. This offense is just below average. They're like Michigan in the fact that they're not terrible. They're just bad or below average, and they're extremely one-dimensional. It's the passing game that holds them back. If you were to only look at Iowa's rushing offense, and same with Michigan's, they'd be great, near elite, perhaps even elite when you solely looked at the rushing offense for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Thank you to my Patreon members for sponsoring this video and channel. I want to give a shout out to Crash2488 and Brasco Rascal for being Heisman Patreon members at $25 a month. If you sign up as a Heisman for 6 months at $25 a month, you will get signed free College Football with Sam merchandise of your choice delivered to you, plus access to my weekly college football picks, straight up and also against the spread. You get access to the picks, just not the signed merchandise if you're an All-American member at $10 a month. Thanks to Chris Slade, Carnellittle OH, Ismar, Tyler Nye, and Chilton Cush for being All-American members. And if you just want your name featured at the end of every video with a shout-out, sign up as an All-Conference member for $5 a month. Thank you, John Lynn, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Steele, Austin Christmas, and Shania Cockrell for being All-Conference members. The links to my merchandise store and my Patreon page, both ways to support the channel, are in the description and also down below in the pinned comment. And I also encourage you to join my Discord via the link in the description and also in the pinned comment. Have a great day, guys, and I will see you all soon. Bye-bye.